they were anticipating that building was going to collapse. The search and rescue effort of Ground Zero stopped. Everybody left that area. And around 5 o'clock, the search and rescue ended because World Trade Center building number 7, they were anticipating that building was going to collapse. The search and rescue effort of Ground Zero stopped. Everybody left that area. They were anticipating that building was going to collapse. The search and rescue effort of Ground Zero stopped. Everybody left that area.
Context of what was an incredibly chaotic day for everybody involved in trying to cover the story. The investigations we've carried out suggest very strongly that we were working on the basis of an incorrect news agency report. We had this statement from Reuters. It came some time after our original inquiries, actually, but what it says is on September the 11th 2001, Reuters incorrectly reported that one of the buildings at the New York World Trade Center, 7 WTC, had collapsed before it actually did. The report was picked up from a local news story and was withdrawn as soon as it emerged that the building had not fallen.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward.
To Jane Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. To that location, to Jane Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Stanley, who's on the corner of 6th Avenue and Grand. Jane, we can see the smoke and the rubble and everything else behind you in the distance. What is happening now in South Manhattan?
Well, South Manhattan down here. Here, just behind me, is effectively closed. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani made that announcement. He said that the downtown area of the city was closed, was to be evacuated. And to be honest, people were very, very willing to get out of it. I saw, as I was coming down here, people just walking, the pavements full, just trying to get as far away as possible. Though, of course, at some point later in the day, they're going to have to try to get home for the evening, and that's going to be incredibly difficult because this whole downtown area is the hub of many subway lines going into Brooklyn, into Queens. It's like a city that's completely in chaos, completely disrupted, doesn't know where it's at.
Now, the National Guard has already been mobilized by Rudy Giuliani, the mayor. What are the other implications for this enormous city, particularly the fact that the financial heart in Wall Street has essentially been ripped apart by these two explosions?
The implications are huge. This was the busiest area of Manhattan. 50,000 people, as we know, worked in the World Trade Center alone. Tens of thousands more in the areas around that. The Empire State Building, which is just behind me on this side, another huge building, has been the Empire State Building, which is just behind me on this side, another huge building has been...
First, I would like to point out that you will never see this again. A reporter from the BBC walking into a shot head first. Someone ordered this report from headquarters and they had to fake the whole thing right away with the help of green screens. Next they announced via the banner below that World Trade Center 7 has also collapsed and spelled CETA wrong. All this while World Trade Center 7 is clearly seen in the background. But before all of this, the other actor said that Jane Stanley was in New York City standing within range of the action, another lie on top of fakes. During the rushed unedited broadcast, the green screen pops into existence for a few frames showing the fakery. The only thing that was not fake was the fact that they knew that World Trade Center 7 was being taken down but reported this fact too soon. The other actor is seen talking to a wall with a fake TV screen with Jane Stanley supposedly far away at the World Trade Center, even though all flights have been cancelled. Next you see the fake green screen TV lose its signal. However, the moron says apparently because the wall he has been looking at all this time can't tell him much and he gets his information via a headset.
Well, in New York, the rescue effort is really just getting underway after the collapse of not just the World Trade Center's Twin Towers, but also the 47-story Solomon building next door to it. For the latest, we can go now to New York and join our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, bring us up to date, if you can, on what's happening now.
Well, we still have no further concrete word on casualty figures, as you said, though people are expecting very horrific numbers. But just down behind me, where the World Trade Center towers used to be, we can still see a thick plume of smoke and of ash in the air, and queues of rescue vehicles, heavy lifting gear being brought in, reinforcements of police in buses and cars, ambulances, all the emergency services getting in. And we know that the mayor of the city, Rudolph Giuliani, and the governor of New York have been appealing for any medical staff in the area to come here to help out, because we've already seen several thousand people being treated in a tent hospital out in New York Bay, and we know that some of those are New York City police officers. We think about 100, and we have unconfirmed as yet reports that as many as 200 firefighters may have been killed and 70 police officers are missing. They were emergency personnel around the building when the towers fell down. So New York in a state of panic and of great grief.
After the collapse of the Solomon building, Jane, are the other buildings in that area stable? Hello, Jane?
Nada.
No, I think we've lost Jane Stanley in New York. We'll try and get back to...
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
In 1990, Milli Vanilli won the Grammy Award for Best New Artist. Then the dream fell apart, turning into one of the biggest scandals in music history.
There's a sour note in the music world tonight with the revelation that pop duo Milli Vanilli faked their songs.